Okay, no, I am now listing. I am now programming. Okay, so
yes.
it means that it is not in this order. Who is ready can speak. Okay.
Okay. Very good.
The second, Africa 1, 2, 3. There are two, in fact, subclusters because the Africa in French language, 2 session in French language, and 1 session in English. And the co-chairs in English, no, in French is Amzat, Boukari-Yabara, and Noël, Magloire, Ndoba. Amzat, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
So who will present the session, African session?
I think we can make both with Noël,
Okay,
but I
good.
don't know if he's already here.
Yeah, and English session, Jean-Jacques, no news, but I see that Mohammed El-Shim is there.
Yeah,
Mohammed.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
But you didn't show up yesterday and before yesterday.
Because really, I couldn't find any kind of language notification by email. Just I figure out it's to the 12th of February. I couldn't figure out that it's I have to attend for 11 or 10. So I'm sorry for that because it's
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's pity because the first day you are supposed to speak about Nasser. So Nasser, Nasser is absent. We have Nehru, we have Nkrumah, we have Sukarno, we have Tito, but Nasser was absent.
What a pity.
What a pity, but it's okay. We will catch up later. So, but I don't know if there any presentation in English for the Africa session or not, because they are supposed to be Egypt, Nigeria didn't come, I think, and South Africa. I don't know if South Africa appeared. It seems that not. So finally, I don't know if there was a session in English.
I think there was no session in English.
Okay, so mainly French speaking. Okay, and then ICT and media, Dimitris Konstantakopoulos and Svetlin Anastasov. Svetlin cannot be with us because he is working. Dimitris, you are there? Wow, okay. Maybe later. Latin America and the Caribbean, you have 2 sessions. And co-chair Beatrice and Monica. So who will present?
Well, I can present it now, the 2 clusters. Beatrice is already preparing the report for another roundtable that just happened this morning.
Okay. Now, so, Western world. No, I just listing quickly. After that, I will call you, okay?
Okay.
Western world is Dragana Mitrovic and Marco Riccieri. Dragana is also leaving because of university courses. So Marco, I think he will present the...
Okay, I'm here. I will present.
Yeah, okay. And then 6, culture, identities, ideology. Isaac will come at 4 o'clock. So he will present later. And business with Asia, there are 3 sessions. 2 sessions dedicated to academic roundtable and 1 session dedicated to the testimony of the alumni of master's degree in exchange with Asia. So for the business with Asia, I suppose Stefan will present. Stefan, you are there?
Yes, I am, and I will present.
Yeah. And for the testimony, Agat and Najwa.
I will do it. I will do it.
Okay, good. And then geopolitics 1, 2, 3, Manoranjan Mohanty and Victor Esterhai. Who will present?
We discussed with Mano that he gonna present the first one.
No, sorry. First one, you want me to present? Victor, I thought you and Marzia will present between the two of you, all the three.
Yeah, I can present all the three.
Yeah,
Okay,
please,
good.
please.
Okay,
Good.
yeah, okay.
Victor, Victor, please. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Because Mano is really occupied from the beginning to the end.
Exactly.
Every session you are there. Okay.
Exactly.
Gender 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 3 co-chairs: Bidyut, Mohanty, Dia Aryani Arimbi, and Sima Mehra Parihar. I suppose you 3 will speak at the same time, not the same time, but successively,
Yes,
one
yes,
after another. Okay,
yes,
as usual.
yes,
No,
yes, yes.
this time Dia and Vidyut are the ones who have done the, the total. They were there for all the sessions. I
So
somewhere
who will
realized-
present?
No,
All
it's
three will speak. All of us, I guess.
Okay, but be careful because Sima is very rich in vocabulary. So it maybe I don't know. It's be careful.
no, they've been very careful, and even I've been careful. I'm only going to speak about one speaker from
Yes,
Iran.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Okay.
Iran, only one came.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. And Nasim regret it very much because she get mistaken. Central Eastern Europe and Russia. 2 co-chairs, Annamaria, Artner, and Grajon Simek. Who will present? 1 and 2, Manoranjan Mohanty and Beatrice Bisio. Who will present?
Beatrice.
Yeah, I'm preparing it. A few minutes.
Okay, no, it's okay. No, we have 2.5 hours for this session.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
And then Mediterranean, we have Marco Riccieri and finally Marco Riccieri and Dragana Mitrovic, no?
Okay, Marco Riccieri, and I send my greetings to Mohammed Elkime that was not in the session.
Yeah, but Mohammed Al-Shim, was he there in the morning?
No, it was not there at the
Okay,
session.
so that's why you are going to present. Okay. Now, BRICS and G20, Marco Riccieri and Dragana Mitrovic. Dragana
Yes.
is left, so say Marco.
Yes, okay.
So Marco, you will make several reports. Good. Ecology and sustainability, Devon Dublin and Paolo Mota. Who will present?
Paolo Mota, me.
Okay. Yeah, Devon, it's 11 o'clock now. And then arms control and disarmament, Grajon Simek and Akil Duta. Who will present? Hey, nobody.
Yeah, Professor Duta told me that he would do it, but
Okay.
now I can't.
Yeah. Okay. And then after that, we have the last session, geopolitical economy, co-chaired by Annamaria Artner and Tulus Tambunan. Who will present the report?
I will present.
Okay, good. So now, I will record in my computer. So I think it is recorded now. So who is the first ready? It seems Monica is willing.
Me too.
You wish to start?
Yes.
Okay, so you can share your PowerPoint if you have, or not?
Sure.
Well, I forget to tell you, it is necessary. We have 16 clusters and we have 150 minutes. But we want to have discussion after reporting, okay? So I hope everybody speaks maximum 7 minutes. If we if you can speak 6 minutes, we will have to spend 96 minutes, and we will have 64 minutes remaining for discussion. Okay, so if you speak more than 6 minutes, then we will have less time for discussion. Now, Monica.
Yes. Well, I will present the 2 clusters of Latin America. I hope that I can use less than 6 minutes per cluster.
Okay.
And we prepare a PowerPoint with the main ideas. Maybe this could be helpful for the final report also. I can send it by chat also. Well, our 2 sessions happened yesterday on Latin America. We have a very, very interesting and rich discussion in both of the roundtables. In the first one, we had the participation of Isabel Cabaña from Chile, José David Moreno from Colombia, and Rafael Roncayolo from Peru. The main remarks about the Chilean process. Chile's participation in the NAM occurred in the context of in synchrony with the Popular Unity Project that brought Salvador Allende to the government in 1971 and was abruptly interrupted by Pinochet military coup d'etat in 1973. During this period, Chile played a very important role of regional leadership and moral reserve, affirmed in the principles of sovereignty, self-determination, cultural, economical, and ideological decolonization, and nationalization of its natural resources, which is very important because Chile depends on the exportation of copper. So the copper economy was nationalized during Allende's government. Since Pinochet coup d'etat, Chile developed a policy of alignment and dependence of the United States and joined the so-called Alliance for Progress, abandoning its active role at NAM. In the case of Colombia, in 1974, Colombia entered as an observer country of the NAM, and during the government of Belisario Betancourt, 1982-1986, the country became a member, a full member of NAM and part of the government peace strategy with Colombian guerrillas. So it was a combined strategy, the participation of NAM and these tentatives with the guerrillas, the Colombian guerrillas. This policy was maintained until the 90s, when the country held the presidency of NAM from 1999 to 1998. From the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, Colombia aligned itself with the strategic policy and hemispheric vision of the United States, signing a free trade agreement, one of the first free trade agreements the United States signed with Latin American countries. And it was part of his policy of combat or struggle drug traffic, the so-called Plan Colombia. And of course became the main center of US military operations in South America, and in a process of escalation of violation of human and political rights in the country. In the case of Peru, Peru historically had a policy of confrontation with imperial powers since the struggles for the independence of the Spanish colonization, when the country became the military and political center of the wars for independence, led by José de San Martín from Argentina and Simón Bolívar from Venezuela. Before joining the NAM, the country already had a legacy of cooperation with neighbor countries. However, it was during the government of General Velasco Alvarado from 1968 to 1975 that the country developed an extremely active role in NAM, and this process took place in the context of nationalization of oil and the country's main natural resources. Also, the agrarian reform that had a strong impact on local oligarchy, and the confrontation with the United States strategy for Latin America. Peru's participation in NAM brought enormous benefit to the country, such as an intense participation in spaces of coordinations and sovereignty affirmation, like the New Information Order, Latin American Economic System, CELA, etc. The main conclusions of this first table is that the participation of Latin America in NAM occurred in the context of advances of popular and progressive forces in the region, which came to government in various countries and had as one of its pillars the intense collaboration and exchange with Cuba and the denunciation and combat the United States blockade of this country. Recovering the legacy of Latin American and Caribbean participation in NAM, as a conclusion for the participants of the table, means the recreation of the spirit of community and collective, the sovereignty and self-determination of our peoples, as well as the redefinition of the role of the region in the contemporary world system. In the case of the session 12, unfortunately, we couldn't have the participation for technical reasons of Ambassador Samuel Pinheiro Guimarães in our first session. In the next session, session 12, we had the participation of Atilio Boron from Argentina, Miguel Ángel Pérez from Bolivia, Devon Dublin, Guyana, and Leonel Nodal from Cuba. The main remarks in case of Argentina, or at least what Atilio puts on the table of debates. The US Americans consider Latin America as and the Caribbean as part of their own jurisdiction. He said, we need to have the American island under control. The United States puts this concept of all continent as an island. Historically, there was an aggressive response to any sovereign Latin American initiative, coup d'etat if necessary. In the present, we have this so-called hybrid war against Correa, Lula, Dilma Rousseff, Cristina Kirchner, who were accused in court, and we have the impeachment of her government lately in Brazil. The Latin American ministries of foreign affairs play a very conservative role in the case of Argentina, even during the actual government. China and Russia now have a stabilization role in Latin America, and the example is the role that they played in Venezuela, specifically in the case of the threat of the United States of military intervention in Venezuela. What was put on the table that the role of China and Russia also was very important for avoid this possibility, this military possibility. In case of Bolivia, Bolivia was present in Belgrade conference as an observer. Later in 1979 became a full member of NAM. The important was discussed the importance of the revolutionary nationalist movement, the most historic political party that led a successful revolution in 1952, introducing economic, social, and political reforms, such as the land reform and the nationalization of the country's mines of tin. After a coup d'etat in 1960s, the CIA financed and trained Bolivian military dictatorship, and in October 9th of 1977, the revolutionary leader Che Guevara was killed by CIA officers and members of the Bolivian army in Bolivia. And now Bolivia is a non-fully member and participated in the latest NAM conference in Baku. In the case of Guyana, Guyana was the first country in South America to join the non-aligned movement and became an active member, having hosted the meeting of Foreign Affairs Ministers of NAM from August 8 to 12 in 1972, which adopted the Action Program for Economic Cooperation. Guyana is a champion in Western Hemisphere in South-South cooperation for the role in supporting developing countries of Africa and Asia, especially in relation to liberation movements. We have to talk about the important case of Namibia. Guyana benefited a lot from NAM, for example, during territorial dispute in Venezuela, with full support from NAM. The main conclusions of this table is that Cuba and Guyana had a pioneer role in relation with NAM in Latin America. Permanent US interference in Latin America foreign affairs denying its sovereignty right to choose its destiny. The aim to build the so-called Patria Grande, that's the name that we use in Latin America to talk about the whole continent without Canada and the United States. Patria Grande is therefore till now unfulfilled, but the region has important forces to continue the struggle for the Bandung spirit. The presentation of our Cuban colleague put these main ideas. Lenin called the Cuba-US war in the late last years of the 19th century the first imperialistic war. Che Guevara made a pioneer visit to Bandung countries from June to September of 1969, the year of the revolution. 59, excuse me. He visited Egypt, at an interview with Nasser, New Delhi, interview with Nehru, Sri Lanka, Jakarta. He has an interview with Sukarno, Ghana, etc. Cuba was present in Belgrade in 1961, the only Latin American country as a full member. Jose Marti, the Cuban national literature and hero, said, "Humanity is my homeland." By following his example, Cuba has been actively supporting liberation movements all over the world, the end of apartheid, and been very active in internationalism. Cuba hosted the NAM summits 2 times, the 6th summit in 1919 and the 14th summit
in 1990, no?
Yes, it's true, it's true.
1990.
Sorry.
90.
And well, then we have to correct this, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Nowadays, there is a very important point that was discussed in this table, that health, solidarity, and the effort to develop the COVID-19 vaccine. As a matter of fact, Cuba is going to be the first and only Latin American country able to develop this vaccine. 4 different vaccines are being produced and tested, and the aim is to produce 100 million of vaccines until the end of 2021. Well, these were the main remarks and discussion, and reflects some conclusions of our 2 tables on Latin America. And we will just put this in consideration of the final report of our seminar. Thank you, Darwis.
Thank you, Monica. Unpredictably, you speak more than 10 minutes. It is 13 minutes exactly. So, for the next, who is ready?
I'm ready, Darwis.
So, Marzia, please,
So
on time, 6 minutes, okay?
6 minutes, I try my best, okay. So we had 3 sessions on Asia, And but they became 2 because we merged the sessions 5 and 6. So they all the sessions went on regularly. We had the following presentations. I mean, the general theme was assessment of NAM 60 years on from the perspectives of China. And the presentation of China had a specific title that was Third World Solidarity and its relevance in the 21st century by In Ziguang. Then there was a presentation on India by Ambikesh Kumar Tripathi, on Indonesia by Faisal Aminuddin, and then in the afternoon, North Korea about by Marco Milani, Pakistan. I can also try to share the. I don't know if I can
share your screen.
Share my yes. No, why I don't find. Okay, the report is here. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So then in the afternoon, we had the presentation, Marco Milani's presentation about North Korea and Pakistan by Zahid Anwar, Palestine by Ziad Medouk, Iran by Ali Mohajeg, and finally Sri Lanka by Isha Sirivardhane. But if I share the screen, I can't handle the, then I have to interrupt it, sorry. So I can't move the page up and down otherwise. So unfortunately, I have no time to describe all presentations that were all of them were very interesting. Some of them were really stimulating. So I just try to highlight the most,
that's the most important.
Significant points emerged from the presentations and the discussions, which were also the discussions, the debates after the presentation, especially in the morning, because in the afternoon we had very little time. So the discussions were also very rich and stimulating. So I can trace 3 tendencies that emerged from the presentations. One is that NAM is a solidarity platform rather than an operating organization. So I think that all of us know this. But nevertheless, NAM has the capacity to influence or change international processes about the fact that new economic and social models are required, alternative to dominant global capitalistic economic hegemonies. NAM countries, NAM considers debt burden, globalization, lack of democratic decision making in global political and economic order, unfair practices, decline in foreign aid and donor conditionality obstacles in the development of NAM members. So according to NAM, all these, these aspects are problems. NAM stands for cultural diversity, peace, and universality of human rights. But these are general principles, so that was a tendency within the group of speakers who represented the respective countries. Then there was a second attitude represented by the Indonesian speaker that was very critical but very interesting according to me. He was very skeptical about the role of NAM and he considers NAM nothing more than an organization of friendship that did not progress much towards the ratification of the values and principles of Belgrade, and which does not have the, so it didn't progress much in the ratification of these values, and it didn't have the capacity to formulate and implement these values massively. NAM never, according to this perspective, NAM never really succeeded in promoting a cooperative relationships and economic mobility. But then a question arises, and it's the question that practically I also asked the presenter, that if NAM is supposed to have economic goals, whereas there are regional economic organizations like in Asia, ASEAN, SAARC, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, for instance. There was a general consensus about the role of NAM in advocating the rights of the weakest. Then another aspect emerged, especially from the Chinese presentation, that colonization is still a crucial aspect within NAM and generally at the international level. This concept can be summarized with the sentence, independence does not mean end of colonization. All Asian and African countries nowadays are independent, but many of them are still colonized. They economically depend on developed and economically stronger and more powerful countries, including China, that is acquiring an increasing hegemonic role at the international level. So according to this perspective, a social and cultural decolonization process is required. Under this point of view, the presentation of Ziad Medouk from Palestine, Gaza, who traced the history of Palestine's participation to the NAM and the solidarity it received from NAM, it's particularly meaningful from the point of view of colonization. So at the end of his presentation, Ziad said that the 20th century was a US century, while the 21st century is Asia's century. So he hopes that this rising Asia will have the capacity to solve the only existing colonial problem in the world, that is Palestine's colonization by Israel. So finally, I wanted to conclude with Palestine because I think that this conference should express a clear and specific resolution about Palestine for the reason expressed by Ziad yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Marzia. Great, you speak 8 minutes.
8
Bravo.
minutes.
Yeah, because I counted. Now,
sorry, I didn't switch on the video. Why? Well,
so who is ready? The next, voluntarily.
If you want.
Yes, Annamaria. In which cluster?
With session 31, this is geopolitical economy.
Okay, Annamaria, geopolitical economy. Yes, please.
Well, in our session, 4 presentations. Okay, I switched on the video. I'm not sure I did. Okay. So in our session, 4 presentations took place. One was delivered by Mukti Asekin from Indonesia. He presented the story of the causes of success and failures in building and sustaining rural cooperatives based on the results of qualitative studies on a kibbutz in Israel, the Ghania. This was founded 111 years ago. And on the other hand, the initiative for the foundation of village unit cooperatives called KUD in Indonesia. This network has been initiated by the government in 1978. The Israeli kibbutz has been very successful. It gives only 2% of Israel's population, however, accounts for 12% of Israeli exports. However, the cooperatives in Indonesia proved to be unsuccessful. They were destroyed by the East Asian crisis in 1998. Their number decreased considerably, and 30% of them has become inactive. After discussing the reasons, Mukti Asekin concluded that equality, solidarity, mutual responsibility, direct participatory democracy, and freedom are the fundamental social capitals for a successful agriculture cooperative, but such a cooperative has to be organized from below. The second presentation was given by Peter Klemensic from Hungary. He analyzed the effects of the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative on the ASEAN economies. He concluded that there is no consensus among the member states of the ASEAN on how to manage the increase of the influence of China, and therefore their response to the Belt and Road Initiative was not uniform either. Some countries regard this project as a threat, others as an opportunity which can help develop their economies, but they agree that dependency on China should be kept to a minimum. Then Youssef Hamitosh, if I pronounce his name properly, from Algeria, discussed the competition between China and France over the economic stakes in Algeria. His presentation gave a good example that many non-aligned countries have tried to reduce their economic dependence on Western countries, and by increasing strengthening their ties and partnerships with China. China doesn't evoke matters of democracy and respect human rights, while Western countries insist on these issues when dealing with developing countries. And last but not least, I also presented, my name is Annamaria Artner, I am from Hungary, and I discussed the role of the non-aligned movement within the evolution of the world system and the ways the NAM could be more efficient in pursuing their original goals of independence and indigenous development. I enlightened the vagueness of NAM, and I am afraid I agree with a certain extent to a Venezuelan presenter. So I highlighted the weakness of NAM, like, for example, the economic political differences and sometimes conflicts between the member states, which prevent this organization for establishing action plans and establishing clear focuses within the framework of this organization. There is a fear of block building, which is also a deficiency of this organization and prevent it to reach reasonable results concerning the self-reliance and indigenous development of peoples, and the defeatist and rent-seeking behavior of the elite of most of the developing countries. To succeed and open the road to post-socialist, post-capitalist societies or socialism, the non-aligned countries should first get rid of the exploitative mechanisms of the center. I also proposed several actions, for example, the enhancement of the scope of cooperation and solidarity and the reinforcement of actions to fight against the new forms of imperialism in order to fulfill the original goals of the non-aligned movement. And at the end of the session, the participants discussed the pros and cons of China's growing influence in South Asia and elsewhere. So this is for short. Thank you very much.
Thank you, 6 minutes. Now, who is the following, the next?
Africa.
Who?
Noël.
Noël, okay, in English or in French?
We have written the paper in French, but we'll try to summarize in English.
Okay.
And we'll send you the written in French written paper.
Yeah, okay. So
okay.
Noël Magloire, yes.
Yes. We have 2 sessions in French about Algeria, with a text by Abdel Zeghem, about Tunisia, a text by Mohamed Larbi, War, about Ghana, the relations between Ghana and Congo, Democratic Congo. it was by Kanza Dikizeko. You had then a text about Congo, Brazzaville by Noël Magloire Ndoba, a text about Ivory Coast by Mohamed Boubacar Ngessan. And the next session was about Guinea with Mr. Mamadou Aliou Diallo. It was second. Mali with Mr. Daouda Tekete, and Burkina Faso. So we have this synthesis about all those both sessions. We tried to answer to the three issues. The question sent by Mr. Darwis. The first question, why did your country join MENA? The second question, what advantage did your country get from MENA? And the last question, what is the contribution of your country to MENA? But
MNA is NAM in English. MNA is mouvement non aligné. In English, is non-aligned movement.
Yeah, yes, okay. The first question, why did your country join non-aligned movement? We had three kinds of countries, three kinds of answering. The first kind are the countries which were observer or participants at Bandung Conference. There we have Morocco, Algeria, no, not Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Ghana. They were represented at Bandung Conference. Kind two, second category of countries, those countries which were represented or participated at Belgrade Conference. So we have Algeria, Ghana, Tunisia, and many other countries like Guinea, Mali, Morocco, Tunisia, Congo Leopoldville. Congo Leopoldville that now Democratic Republic of Congo. Those countries were participants at the Belgrade Conference. And we have a last kind of countries. We come first in the movement at the Cairo Summit in Egypt in 64. The most countries participated there because it was after the creation of the Organization of African Union. The Organization of African Union was created in 63, and in its charters, in its principles, it was adopted that all the country, African country, independent African country, have to share the values and the principles of non-linear movement. So those three kinds of country, now we find all the independent countries in Africa are members of the NMR. The second question, the second issue, what advantages do your country get from being member of NIM? Generally, all the countries have two kinds of advantages. The first is political, being in a coalition, a great coalition of nations in the international relations, especially in the session of the Nation Organization, United Nations Organization, and groups, the coalitions like the G77, and sharing the positions in diplomatic life and getting votes at the national United Organization, that's a political advantage. Some countries have got an economic advantage by relations with other countries of non-linear movements. That's examples, Mali and Congo, Brazzaville. The relations in the 60s with China in Congo. Congo was the first country in French-speaking countries in Africa to establish relations with China, and China built some manufactories in Congo in the 60s. Mali also got advantages, economic advantages, by its relations with the USSR, the Soviet Union, and other countries called socialists at that moment. Economic advantages are also found in the participation in organizations like CNUSED, the Commission of the Nations Union for Trade and Development. Like the third question, what the contribution of your country to the movement? I let Amzat.
Yes, I can finish the presentation. The first question was your country's contribution to the development of NAM, and we realize that above all forms of contribution, one is to underline the personal commitment of great leaders of the countries. For example, Bourguiba from Tunisia, Boumediene from Algeria, Modibo Keïta from Mali, and much later, the young leader of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara. An emphasis should be placed on the role of Algeria with contribution to the political and diplomatic struggles. For example, the Algiers Summit of 1973 for the demand for new international economic order. The summit that OPEC decided to quadruple the price of oil. And it is in the same context that the debate on unequal exchange has developed beyond the economic demonstration, the political thesis being the need to put an end to the zero-sum game, which has remained the rule in trade between countries, so-called countries of the South, or so-called underdeveloped countries on the one hand, and on the other hand, the so-called countries of the North, developed countries, in what Samir Amin calls the global accumulation. Fourth question was the future perspective of the NAM according to the national interest of your country. In the cases studied and in general for Africa, the future perspective of the NAM remains to be defined based on three words that the evocation of the role of Thomas Sankara allowed to retain: reality, dream, and project. we should quote Thomas Sankara to realize the relevance and the permanence of the concerns to which these words refer. Current facts allow to open the debate from the African point of view, the reality of the process of globalization, then that of its limits nowadays, the global shock of the COVID-19 pandemic and the containment at the level of economies, the intellectual debate on decoloniality, which is before about Africa's relation to the world or to what we call modernities, and from the point of view of innovations, like Isaac Bazier, one of the speakers, talks from Canada. The necessary renewal of the debate opened by historian Joseph Kizerbo on the concept of endogenous development, the question of the role of societies in relation to that of states in the development of the NAM, the role of diaspora, the global economic crisis linked to COVID-19, so many facts that are linked, inseparable from global issues such as climate change, the fourth industrial revolution, the role of youth and women in a context of growing inequalities. And those issues can lead to three final and essential questions for the rest of our work. First question, how to link the struggle for the development of the NAM and the struggle for Pan-Africanism beyond the action of states. And from this point of view, how to envisage Pan-African meetings, which are initiative of civil societies. Second question, how to pursue an African presence in the world and in a new perspective of the NAM, while ensuring the endogenous development of the continent through Pan-Africanism and therefore regional integration. Third question, how to mobilize the youth with a necessary historical awareness of and sufficiently effective methods in relation to the issues raised by democracy linked to the ideals of the NMA, of the NAM, and resulting from the Bandung Conference with its key concepts of equality, freedom, and unity. These three questions open up projects for which our two working sessions laid the groundwork for this conference. We thank you, and we had to translate in live, so sorry for the time it took.
Yeah, thank you, Noel and Amzat. It was 13 minutes, so more or less everybody around 10 minutes. So only the time of discussion will be less. Okay, let's. Who is ready for the next?
I am ready.
Who?
Paolo.
Paolo, ecology. Yeah. Okay, Paolo.
Okay, here we go. And can I share my my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I share my screen. How it is now? I was talking too fast. No, I cannot share my thing. Yes.
Why?
Wait a minute. Here it is.
Yes, it's come.
Here it comes. Okay, we had 5 papers in our session, and it was very interesting because we had speakers coming from Asia, from Africa, Europe, and Latin America, and the Caribbean. So practically all the world around. I was speaking about sustainable development and the relationship with the impacts of global pandemic. And it was made a direct link with the approach that we need now on the sustainable development goals. Then we had Yanti Kusumato and Ayus Sartiari, who were talking a very interesting presentation about the problems of recurring flooding events in Jakarta. Jakarta is getting flooded as other cities like Manila and like that. So this is going on and on, but it was very important because they were approaching this from the social, environmental, and economic perspectives, and especially seeing with a stronger involvement of women into the awareness of this problem and to the need to sensibilize the local authorities. Then we had Changu Ude that was talking about final climate adaptation in Africa, climate resilience. This presentation that was made for Africa could be applied in other developing countries and small islands who are facing the same problems. Then we will talk about this after. Russell-Meyer were continuing what they were presenting last year about solution of solving plastic consume and the way how they're impacting on the earth process and how we have to stop the stored carbon product in the natural environment. Then Palmira Cuellar was speaking about the engagement of young people involved in the climate and SDG policies in South Global. Was very interesting, the topic raised by Changu Ude, because he was talking very clearly about the small and poor countries that are affected by the effect of global change, because they're getting money, climate mitigation fund from loans from richer countries to rebuild infrastructures, to rebuild towns, to rebuild whatever is coming after some, let's say, climate event. But these things are rebuilt without having a vision or an approach of how they should be made, because again, they're getting destroyed again. So the loans are becoming debts that are putting these countries always in debt under those who are giving the money. So this is a way that we have to review completely the way of these loans that are giving to the smaller and the developed countries, because interventions cannot be standard or repetitive. It has to be attacking the problem from the bottom. It was very, very interesting. Climate change were always present in my presentation, in the presentation of Jakarta, in the need of reviving the villages, stopping the carbon-based model using the plastic. So all the speakers were underlining the need of integrated interventions with a bigger participation of women and young generation, and to have a very strong inclusion of the economic and social aspects. The question that was coming after, what role and can the CAM have a supportive role in this modification? Or these are only slogans that we are discussing here and we are not succeeding to go further on this. Then in the end, we were in relation to the future perspectives, we will identify following topics: mainstreaming policy for issues that are related to the environment that has to be developed considering social, economic, and ecological factors. Climate financing for climate change adaptation needs to be in the form of grants, no loans, because loans are creating only debt. The activities and initiative should be done constructing within the profit of Earth, wherever we consider how our activities can impact the environment. Then final South cooperation, and here enter in play NAM and whatever it is. South cooperation should be explored as one of the most important tools to face climate change and achieve sustainability. So this was, in brief, concentrated in less than 10 minutes, what we have been doing.
5 minutes, bravo.
5 minutes.
Yes, 5 minutes.
It
So,
was like that. Perfect. Okay.
perfect. Who is the following?
The gender panel.
Okay. So, let's see for 3 ladies.
Yes.
Everyone 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah, you are 3.
Something
or
has
you can say 3 minutes everybody to make 10 minutes.
Darwis, you follow a line or not? Darwis.
Yes.
You follow a line or not, an order or not?
No, it's spontaneously who is willing. Who is ready and who is willing? Okay.
So I will, we have divided our work equally among three of us. I'll take up the Indian section and Sima takes up Iranian and African, and Dia rest Indonesian. So I'll start. As the name spreads the value of gender equality, it has become a really sorry. I'll just read again. As the name spreads the value of gender equality, it has become a reality, and various governments took steps to give space to women in terms of politics, economy, and society. The governments reserved not less than 1/3 of the seats at the grassroots level, leading to creation of women leaders in the village level, encouraging them to form self-help groups to help them economically so that it would lead to empower them socially. But still, as Sima has pointed out, that the gender inequality remains visible in various forms. So it still persists, but the COVID had challenged to women leaders, and they have realized their hidden agency to become the frontline workers, along with ASA workers or Anganwadi workers, risking their own lives. In the process, they have not only helped the poor migrants in the containment center in terms of health, education, and job opportunities. As Sona has pointed out, they have become the peace messenger. Asa, on the other hand, observes how women-headed households are more vulnerable, and their adaptation to the social change, it's about that. She has analyzed the structural causes of gender inequality arising from the dynamic intersection of multiple forms of discrimination to adaptation of climate change. Sai Chandra Mouli took very interesting example of transgender whom the society looks at laughingly, but still they have asserted their own identity in the forms of singers, newsreaders, and modeling. Madhavi talked about a conflict, Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, a conflict area, as to how women have become empowered with the help of bureaucracy. Of course, that's very problematic after the abrogation of 370 article. Finally, I have shown that women leaders in general and those of living in tribal areas in particular have shown that there is a way out to defeat the COVID, as Swarna has pointed out. That is, if women do not anger Mother Earth or the nature, still lead a life in ecological, economic way without making the nature angry anymore. In other words, women leaders have taught us that leading life pattern as per observing the principles of ecological, economic, civilizational way will help to help holistically to help to save the humankind. Otherwise, humankind is doomed. They will continue to suffer from COVID-like situations. as the European case has shown. Here, the market doesn't dominate, but becomes the subservient to the needs of the people. Thus, the hidden agency. I have many more things to tell, but I will be brief.
Yeah, you have already 5 minutes speaking.
10 minutes only.
So we'll discuss later. So Sima or Dia following.
Wait a minute. I have
Okay.
concluding session. Just concluding session.
Yeah, okay.
Women have been realized agency, hidden agency, but they need democratic patriarchal structure as well as social structure. Only then the dream of Gandhiji's Gram Swaraj will become true. It's not a dream. It is happening in different parts of India. And we think if you do this ecology, if you respect the ecology, then the Gram Swaraj will prevail. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the next.
I can do next.
Yes, Dia.
Okay. I was co-chairing with Bijut and Sima. And first of all, I would like to say Happy Chinese New Year for those who are celebrating it, because in Indonesia it's a public holiday.
Yeah.
Okay. So from the panels on women's and gender issues, I can say that women across Indonesia and India are indeed responsive to the COVID-19 pandemic, because all the papers in 2 sessions, all the papers talk about how women react to this COVID-19 pandemic, not only economically, but also mentally and physically, as during the pandemic, violence against women has risen significantly in real life or even in virtual life, as in paper presented by Eva Solina Gultom. She addressed the violence, online violence of women during the pandemic. Devi Liliana also discusses the importance of women literacy in combating fake news and hoax, because many women are also targeted by this fake news and hoax. Many women are victimized not only because of the gender, but also because of their social class, because they have multiple burdens by working both in domestic jobs and also educating their children, or at least accompanying their children while having online classes and doing household chores for the same time. And this is presented in the paper by Tuti Budi Rahayu. That's on one hand. On the other hand, women are resilient too. In Surabaya, there is a resilient urban village, or we call it kampung, where women become sellers of traditional cakes in order to survive economically in the informal industry, where often their husband, because their husband were unemployed because of the COVID-19, helped them and they co-share doing the household in the family. As a paper presented by Uniworo talking about sociopreneurship of women in the urban village in Surabaya. The similar thing also happened in some regions in East Java in a paper presented by Emi Susanti, where women have to work long hours doing, becoming the craft women in a batik industry, and also doing domestic chores at the same time. They are very vulnerable, but what makes them survive is, according to this paper, because they have gender equal relations as social capital. However, in the time of pandemic in Indonesia, there are women who built women's solidarity by providing food for poor women who are affected most by this pandemic. These women from women activities build strong commitment amongst women to help others, not only in terms of economy, but also culture also as well. Culture plays a significant role in creating women's solidarity. Women and community are inseparable. None can exist without the other, and Bijut raised an important issue on women, environment, and culture. A woman are the pillar of the culture and the carer of nature. And entering 2021, with COVID pandemic still gripping the world, it is clear that women's rights, safety, and equality are still under threat. Not only women, but vulnerable groups. For example, the elderly, the children, and the disabled. They are still not taken into account, as Wiwi Afifah paper shows. That Indonesian government policies regarding the handling of COVID-19 are still far away from gender equality. So as information states that we know that this coronavirus has something to do with nature, meaning that when the environment and nature are damaged, other habitats will also lose their living space and penetrate the human environment. So I guess we must be able to live a better life, making a strong commitment for humanity, justice, and the sustainable living on Earth, because that's what NAM is about. We are more convinced that the work to build social, gender, environmental justice. So I suppose from the panels that the three of us were co-chairing, if NAM proposes global solidarity, in many ways, papers that presented on gender and women issues propose women's solidarity. Women are still resilient, and I hope will always be strong, especially in times of trouble, inshallah. So thank you, stay strong, stay healthy, and stay safe. Thank you, Pak Darwis.
Thank you, 5 minutes, good. And now, Seema, you want to say? Gender, Seema. No?
Darwis.
Yes.
In a lighter vein, I must tell you that only women participated in gender issue sessions.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It is not their problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I can tell about Iranian.
No, Seema is coming.
No, Seema is coming.
Okay.
Seema. I saw you, I see you, but no microphone.
Coming. I was wanting to share a screen. It doesn't work, but I'm only going to speak for 2 minutes.
Yeah,
so
good.
I just thought, like, so yeah. So you have given me, because this time it was, both of them had really shared the work. They were the ones, they were doing it. I'm going to speak about, there was only one speaker from Iran.
Yeah.
And yes, all these papers which were there, and even she was the one, what she highlighted was struggle, and search for an identity. Women are still looking for identity. And that is so sad in 2021. And she also talked about different women agency. She talked about different structures, but largely this young woman named Fatima, she's a researcher from social sciences from Iran, but she's living in Southwest Mexico. And she highlighted that singing as a struggle for women in present Iran. What we all enjoyed was she gave us a new layer. In case when we discuss women, she spoke about women's dreams. She said about their identity and efforts and urged them to empathize with the presentation. She was the one she had to ask, like, am I speaking all right and all that? Because somewhere along the line, atmosphere around Iran is not very comfortable. She highlighted that since 1979, Iran's female voices are regulated and rarely allowed to sing in public. This was the period of Iran-Iraq war. And they are not allowed to sing in Iran at all, especially in case if they want to sing alone. And the punishment, just look at the punishment, that she gave us few case studies. They range from lashing, putting them behind bars, and even exiled. This is just that in case if they want to sing. What she highlighted was, with a lot of hope, she said that yet more and more women are coming out to sing. Imagine, amidst so much of restrictions, women still, is trying to come forward with dreams. And the central point of her presentation was that when singing makes women happy, then why cultural voices have to be regulated? I just repeat that when singing makes women happy, just replace singing with anything. I'll say anything that makes women happy, then why our structures want to regulate that voice? And that was the key, this thing to her paper. My only point out here is that though Bidyut and Dia have already highlighted that somewhere along the line, all of us, the ones who are here, should remember that they all can play a role and think of gender parity. But problems exist. I'm not going to go on and on with the data today. For me, I was just giving you this thing on from Iran, a view from Iran and India and Indonesia, everywhere, even in Europe and America. We all have to think. But next time, Darwis, I just want to make one personal comment and then we won't finish. Let's not call this as a gender session. Yeah. Let's call it a session for women. If we want to call it gender, then look at this session beyond binaries. Then broaden it, or call it a session on women. Women are still struggling. Women are still there when we have to speak again and again and again about a lot of problems. And this COVID had definitely shown us that problems have multiplied and they are not safe. There are no more any safe spaces. Even in the place, home should be the safest place. That place is also not very safe. Violence is increasing. It's only 1.83% of the cases where women are, women have been raped by somebody who was not known to them. And this is the international data I'm talking about. Rape capital of the world is not India. It's many other parts of the world also. You find, in case if you talk about multipolarity and you talked about different things, women, every word in that spirit, every word in case you think of NAM is the one you can just identify it with women. So next time, maybe we can have it as a session on women, separate session on gender, where we think beyond binaries. Thank you very much. We all need your support. We are not wanting 51% of anything. We are only saying, treat us equally, treat every one of us across sectional society, just equal, give us parity. This is the word that we understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Even if you are talking 5 minutes, but we enjoy your talk. Thank you very much. And now, Marco, you want to start?
Yeah. Allora, we had 3 sessions. I co-chaired 3 sessions. One world. And 3 speakers. Only Bruno Dreschi was not participate, but sent a written paper. The first speaker was Marius Everviadis from Cyprus. He recalled us the scandal of Cyprus because it's the only European country divided in 2 by a wall, still existing like it was in Berlin Wall. And this division was caused by a state member of NATO years ago. So the NATO allowed that one of its members divided a country, unified country like Cyprus. This Marius defined Cyprus like the Cuba of the Mediterranean. In the past time, Cyprus gained a lot by the cooperation from the NAM cooperation, and creating and increasing, enhancing its independence. But now Cyprus entered in European Union, and so this cooperation is no more valuable. In the future, he hoped that the cooperation with NAM countries will make possible to reunify this island he underlined a specific point that Cyprus must not consider a Western country. This is his approach. The second speaker was Professor Sacco. Sacco underlined two important points. One, in the history of Italy, the recent history of Italy, every time that Italy create a good relationship with non-countries and street cooperation, we had a very even tragic political effect. Mattei, the president of ENI, the big Italian company, was killed. Berlusconi with Libya was defeated by his government, and so on. Craxi in the past. So this is the fact. He described that every time Italy approached the number country in more intensive way, we had a very, very negative and tragic effect. Professor Sacco suggests to all of us to distinguish between neutrality and neutralism. Neutrality is a very passive position. Neutralism is very active position. It implies work for international cooperation. The third speaker was Köchler from Austria. Austria was described as a country that was obliged after the Second World War to choose military neutrality and to follow the Swiss model. But during the decades, especially under Kreisky government, this neutrality was lived in very, very positive way, in sense that Austria became an observer from NAM with right of vote, not only simple observer, but with the right of vote. And it was the headquarters of many international meetings, summits, agreements, playing as a mediatory role. This idea of neutrality was put in the constitutional law, but after the adhesion of Austria to the European Union and to NATO, now this neutrality disappeared at the political and law level. It remains only an attitude of the people. The Austrian people believe very much, still now, in neutrality. Professor Köchler underlined this fact, that in a multipolar world, it's very difficult that non-countries can play a role. The only bipolarity we have today is between China and USA, United States, and it suggested non-countries don't enter in this new bipolarity, but try to play an intermediate role. So the main suggestion were that to work not for neutrality, but for neutralism, and don't enter in a bipolar world. Second session was about Mediterranean, and I take the occasion to greet Mohamed El Shime. It was not present. I hope to maintain contact with him. In the Mediterranean, we have five contributions, and one from Roger Albinanian from Yemed in Barcelona. He said that all the area, and in particular the NAM country in the southern side of Mediterranean, have five structural problems. That means in labor market, informal economy, small and medium enterprise, human participation to labor market, and public governance, the system of rules, corruption, rule of law, and so on. This could be a topic of the NAM movement, how to face these structural problems. But it's underlined that in the sorry, it's okay.
Yes, continue.
In the Mediterranean area, we need a vision for long term. There is no a vision about how to create a community, a real community in Mediterranean area. This particular issue was confirmed by another speaker, Francesca Manenti, who deal the role of China in Mediterranean area, and she confirmed that China has not an identity map about the Mediterranean, but only they consider Mediterranean area only a geographical place. So it is a paradoxical situation, because from one side, China recognized the relevance of this area, but from other side, they don't have a specific approach, political or economic, only localistic, state by state in a pragmatic way. Other two in contribution were by Elena Tosti, who said, emphasize all the limits of European Union in the approach to cooperation in Mediterranean area, practically because the European Union is still having an Eurocentric vision, and by the Provenzano, the representative of the Union for Mediterranean, that is the biggest organization, intergovernmental organization in the area, in which now the main topic on the table is how to link instruction, education, and employability and government, just to put down all the walls we have in the area. Third session, and I'm going to conclude, Laura. We had 4 contributions. Rodolfo Souza from Brazil, who pointed out the relevance of the BRICS agenda. In the BRICS agenda, we find a very important commitment against the terrorism that now explain after the collapse of Islamic State is moved to Africa. Then from Moscow, Professor Yarigina, she described how is important the economic cooperation among the BRICS to create some important reform at international level. For instance, in the use of money, local money, instead the dollar or the euro or the other money. The other 2 contributions, one from Paolo Raimondi, who say that the global risks today are much, much bigger than during the financial crisis in 2008. And then Ambassador Ridolfi, who say that the Africa point the attention about Africa. Africa is the real strategic place from cooperation on confrontation among the states, and Africa has an incredible demographic boom. In short period, we shall have 600 million of new consumers on the market, and so he suggests to work to the cooperation he called G3, that means European Union, BRICS, and Africa, to how to manage this new situation. And going on the title of the conference, The Race of Asia, he said that the race of Asia must demonstrate its leadership outside Asia. And so, but the basic idea is to cooperate non-countries with BRICS because they are in the 5 continents, but facing with the biggest challenge that in the next future it's in Africa.
Finish?
Finish.
Oh, bravo. You speak 14 minutes, 14 minutes for 3 sessions.
Okay.
I'm just amazed. How come you speak slowly, but you can arrive on time? Okay, thank you.
Yes. Darwis.
Yes.
The old democracy in Greek, in Old Greek, at the assembly in a famous Agora, they had 6 minutes.
Oh, really? Oh, very interesting. Now, I see. Yes,
I would like. I'm ready if you want.
Yeah, but Dimitris already sent me a message that he was ready. Okay.
Okay.
Dimitris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm finishing my details with those Dante machines.
So you are a child of Agora. So be respectful to Agora.
I'm a grandchild of Agora, and grandchildren of Agora are doing very often the contrary of their grandparents.
Okay.
So we have discussed in this chair problems of information, communication, and also artificial intelligence. The non-aligned movement had the central aim to end the domination, a liberation project in the political, economic, and cultural spheres. During the 1973 Fourth Summit in Algiers, a new front of struggle was defined. The goal for a new international economic order, an economic issue with deep political implication. To complement the same, the international information order was placed on the agenda as well and vigorously criticized. At the Colombo Summit, the non-aligned countries shifted emphasis on culture and ideology, and a new international information order was defined as another central goal due to the power of communication as an instrument of domination. Beatrice Vicious has reminded and explained us the very important role of the magazine Third World, which was founded in 1974 in Buenos Aires by a group of Latin American journalists, and its impact on South-South relations during its more than 3 decades of circulation. The magazine was inspired by the debates of the Algiers Summit, in which one of its founders, Brazilian journalist Neiva Moreira, had participated as a special envoy for a Latin American newspaper. An idea which is coming just now to me is why we do not found in the context of this conference, a new kind of electronic, maybe magazine. Beatrice has also focused on the cardinal importance of exchanging ideas between different people struggling in different contexts and in different continents even. Unfortunately, the magazine stopped its edition under the government of PT in Brazil. Although Beatrice did not elaborate further, one gets the impression, I don't know to be sincere how exact it is in this case, but in many others it has been exact, that people are usually absorbed by their national agendas. They underestimate the importance of counterposing a really international answer to the system. It happened in Latin America. It happened also in Europe during the Greek crisis. I believe Hugo Chavez was maybe one of the very few South leaders who fully understood the importance of the international dimension and worked practically to achieve it. Another point from which otherwise promising experiences have suffered is the tendency of small leading groups to focus to their own group or party, not willing to recognize the importance of anybody else. At that point, if you permit it, I would like to add one conclusion I have drawn from our Greek revolt against Marxist totalitarianism and the reasons for the defeat of our, so to say, betrayed revolt, in spite of the 2015 referendum and its impact worldwide. In order for any such movement to succeed, it has to combine a very serious preparation at all levels. It has to be based on a large-scale mass movement. It needs a continuous mutual interaction with its social and political base and the whole of its nation. It is impossible to win without a collective leadership, democratically controlled. Merely charismatic personalities are not sufficient. It must be supported also by a serious international coalition of forces able not only to exercise solidarity, but also to include such revolts, which usually begin at a national level, into the context of regional and even wider international strategies and practical social and political struggles. In the wake of the Greek revolt, a group of international intellectuals, we found it aside, Defend Democracy Press, in order to advance the necessary sharing of critical information and dialogue among us. You are welcome to get involved to our activities in any form you wish. Svetlin Anastasov presented the emergence of China as a counterexample for the Western world in the way it is developing its artificial intelligence. She believes China is presenting structural advantages when it comes to developing AI systems. Because of the lower friction of collecting data, they have a greater pool of data available for the training of AI systems. The Chinese companies are developing fast, and research laboratories are training huge numbers of AI scientists. The technology startup ecosystem is well established and extremely ambitious. There is a political will to advance the artificial intelligence agenda with state support and massive financial backing. With the advancement of AI and intelligent automation comes also the danger for humans and the future of jobs, but also come more possibilities for people. It is proven that AI systems provide more efficient and accurate work when it comes down to repetitive tasks. Perhaps transforming jobs would actually liberate people from the Industrial Revolution brainwashing, where work was life and life was work. Some participants have put in doubt the fact that West is more careful with personal data than China, especially given Snowden's revelations and also what we already know of the activity of the giants of internet and of the United States, Israeli, and other secret services. China is developing its own artificial intelligence, but most countries of the world cannot repeat the Chinese example. They risk to become data colonies. This is why the federation of the greatest possible number of countries wishing to protect their digital independence becomes now a vital necessity. The situation provides the movement of non-aligned nations in comparison with social movements and organizations a huge opportunity to take practical initiatives in the direction of both democratizing internet and developing common defenses to data and AI neocolonialism. I hope I was in the Agora.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Perfect, 6 minutes.
Thank you.
Bravo. And also your proposal will be taken up by Isaac, who is has an idea to develop this newsletter. Okay.
Okay. Let me share my screen with you. It will be easier to follow. Oh no, I can't. I don't have the permission to do it. Is it possible
Yes,
to
yes.
give me some space and keys? Okay, now. So thank you very much, and I would like to thank the assistants and Darwis for helping, because we faced many technical issues, and then we succeeded and for the session. So thank you. Initially, we had a session with 5 presentations, but unfortunately, 3 of the presenters couldn't join us. So, but nonetheless, we had 2 very informative and engaging presentations by Lazare Kizerbo from French Guyana, and Diana Svetlana Stoica, sorry, from Romania. So the summary of the session, because I just took the frame you sent us, Darwis, in order to summarize it very quickly for you. So first of all, Stoica spoke about the rise of RIC from BRICS and the cultural transformations in Eastern Africa. Major points: the rise of Asian countries from the BRICS club of emerging powers, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, coined as RIC countries, and the problem of the related to this rise in Eastern Africa. So this is the core point she analyzed. A qualitative analysis based on 2 main concepts: mobility and media, where mobility is expressed by tourism, and the outcome is the problem of representations, narratives on Eastern Africa or Africa globally, and the efficiency depending by whom they are conceived. You know, these narratives on Africa and the way they circulate. And Lazare Kizerbo, philosophy, he is teaching in Lycée Bertin Juminaire, French Guyana. He spoke about cultural dimensions of non-alignment and decolonization in Joseph Kizerbo's work. I didn't tell you that Stoica is a doctoral student in Romania, so I have to mention it now. So Lazare Kizerbo, talking about the work of Joseph Kizerbo in the context of what he called the cultural dimension of non-alignment and decolonization.
His article is in this book.
Yes, thank you.
The Principle of Non-Alignment, and Joseph Kizerbo write an article, Cultural Dimension of Non-Alignment.
Thank you very much, Darwis. And then he highlighted some major points here from an historical view. The political NAM was taking place simultaneously with a cultural and intellectual one. This has been documented through the strong presence of intellectuals, and here Joseph Kizerbo particularly, and the main outcome should be a better consideration of this cultural, ideological, as well as political history of NAM since the beginning of the 20th century, and particularly since 1958. You know, at this turn point where French colonial the space, the French colonial space, tried to get rid of colonialism and Sékou Touré. So 1958 is a turning point, and it's very important to be considered while we discuss about NAM and the origins, and then also this cultural and ideological aspect of the movement. So the most controversial point discussed in the session, I have 2 or 3, African narratives in the context of an increased presence of rich countries on the continent. And now here it was very interesting to see, for instance, the potential every country among these rich countries, every country has in Africa, and how it can use this potential to build relationships and a kind of new narratives on Africa. And very interesting to notice the presence of an Indian diaspora in Eastern Africa. What is an Indian presence in Africa in contrast to China, for instance, where we lack this presence in Africa and the possibilities of settling, this kind of diaspora. So emerging the second point we discussed, that should be considered for future discussions, emerging and establishing powers and established powers. Rick, for instance, and this invitation, let me phrase it on another way. The Rick powers invite themselves in Africa, and the question is there an African power to respond? Because, I hear Marco saying there is, Africa gets to, is considered as a very strategical space in these years, more than many years ago. Is there Africa is at stake, but is there any African power how to more than this status of consumer? And everyone wants this consumer space to be involved in the transaction, but with which role? This is a very important point to be discussed. And the last one is about connections to ideas, possibilities, and this of redesigning dreams of a possible third way by considering the cultural, political, and philosophical proposals from pioneers like Joseph Kizerbo, Senghor, Amadou Matambo, and so on. Scientific epistemological non-alignment, non-aligned socialism, indigenous development. My colleagues, Amzat and Ndoba, spoke about them in their summary. So the future perspective should be the search of African narratives and positions in the relationship between Africa and RIC. And the last one, so the invitation to reflect on African federalism. So these are the main points we had in the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isaac. So you speak here now.
Just a little comment there. French Guyana is spelled G-U-I-A-N-A.
Yeah. No, there are some small mistakes I saw in many texts. So there's.
So, thank you, Devon.
So who is the next? Volunteer.
I'm ready if you want, Beatrice.
Okay, Beatrice, go ahead.
Okay, I will share my
screen. Cluster.
The cluster is New Globalism in a post-COVID world.
Yes,
two sessions we had.
Yeah.
Session 23 and 30. And I hope I can manage to do this
Agora.
Yeah. And Agora. Yeah, let's see. I hope it will be okay. I don't know if it is okay because are you seeing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing it because so
no.
Okay. No, I'm sorry because I don't see it, and for me it's complicated not to follow it. I don't know what happened.
Saw it.
Yeah. So
now it disappeared.
Oh, excuse me 1 minute. Yeah, I will try again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I will. I don't know what happened to me. I will. So. Okay, again, yeah.
Okay. Yes. We see
so,
it.
Are you seeing session 30? Because as I'm not looking, I'm not seeing it. I don't know.
Oh.
The
yes.
Session 30?
Session 30, yes.
Okay, okay, perfect. So I know I have the control of what you are seeing. Thank you. Well, first of all, I returned. The co-chairs were Professor Manoranjan Mohanty and I myself. And as professor is going to speak later on, we decided that I will have this, I will give you this summarized version of the two sessions. Even though the session 30 may you may think that it was the second one, but it really was the first one. It was earlier, session 30.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the session had the participation of Mitrovic Dragana, Dimitris Konstantakopoulos, and Rita Mashanda. Dragana is a Serbian scholar. Dimitris, you have already been with him with his report, is a Greek, and Rita, if I am not mistaken, is from India, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all of the presentations were extraordinarily rich. So I am afraid I will not be able to give this richness in a very, very summarized version. But Dragana made an important analysis of the China post-COVID and the global changes of production, trade, foreign relations, and the relation particularly of China and the great powers. Well, she analyzed the reasons for the outbreak having affected the relations with the Western partners, and in particular, she mentioned racism, as we all remembered Trump calling it the Chinese virus, etc. Then she remembered that China will be the only G20 country that will maintain its growth, and many others have been analyzing this particular point in other sessions too. There was a discussion on the new technologies, of course, very sophisticated discussion. I'm just trying to summarize here the questions that arose, if the new technologies in which way are going to be used. Finally, also discussion about the future and the role China could play, and this question if China will be the master, not necessarily because we think or she thinks that is the case. Dimitris also had traced a very interesting historical overview of the evolution of the capitalist system up to the stage to neoliberalism, with its catastrophic consequences in the world. We all know about that. And also he had presented an analysis of the situation after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, and the moment or the years during which the West sought to impose capitalism as the whole world, on the whole world, in a, what he called a totalitarian project. He analyzed China as being one of the countries that's completely rejected the Washington strategy, and also the role of Russia after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, and particularly now, which he mentioned that Russia is recovering its role, and etc. He also referred to the situation in the Middle East, the very tragic situation in the Middle East, comparing Israel's project for the region to Hitler's project, and what future can we expect? Perhaps an apocalyptic war if the tensions are not solved. So it's an open question. The West he also referred to the fact that the West can no longer impose its projects to the rest of the world, but it can lead humanity to a disaster. And well, after some, of course, more detailed debate on this particular subject, he mentioned that NAM is a global or maybe a global counterforce, and the Bandung spirit and will be very important in the near future. So Rita also gave a very interesting perspective of human rights, feminist, and peace from the feminist perspective due to her more than 2-decade experience on that. And she mentioned that even more important than NAM is to think that the Bandung spirit allows us to think not only on the role of states, but of the civil society. And she mentioned the anti-imperialist spirit with a feminist vision as a very important way of understanding anti-imperialism, and that transnational feminism and women peace discourse and transnational Afro-Asian mobilization of women as a key tool in this moment. Also, she referred to the new literature which is appearing on and analyzing the different conferences that had been in the last decades dedicated to women. And to recover this literature is aimed to recover the progress that was made by left feminism linked with the development subject in a self-determination perspective. Most of the history of this conference, she said, Conference on Women, and also the struggles of women have been written with a Western perspective. So it is important to see that before Bandung, there were voices, particularly female voices, that were not heard. But after Bandung, that was, of course, one of the achievements that has changed. She mentioned also that after Yugoslavia and Rwanda, the importance of sexual violence has come to the agenda. And she mentioned, but in particular, the Security Council Resolution 1335 about women, and that she mentioned was the product of international network of societies work, in particular with huge contribution of women from all the continents, particularly the Global South. Important and very interesting discussion was around the problem of the concept of responsibility to protect, that in fact has been a way of militarization of some countries and the foreign intervention. And the question she raised is who are they protecting with these interventions? Of course, there were many other important and very interesting items to be mentioned, but we have no time. So the next session, session 23, It was also very interesting. We had the participation of Gabriela Vegatelis, who is an Aborigines representative from the Mexican Aborigines people. Monica Bruckmann, who already had participated with our Latin American sessions in the report. Siddharth Malawarapu, Monica is Peruvian, and as well as we both are in Brazil now. I am Uruguayan. Siddharth Malawarapu, I'm not sure, but I think, of course, he is Indian. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, I myself, that I am from Uruguay originally, but living in Brazil for decades. So Gabriela, as I mentioned, she is a Nahua Mexican activist and a member of the Mexican National Indigenous Congress and counselor for the Nahua people of the Valley of Mexico. I think it's interesting to mention these biographical details of Gabriela, because she denounced, from the perspective of indigenous and ancestral people, Mexican particularly, many infrastructure projects, as the new Texcoco airport that is already affecting the communities in the territory of the Valley of Mexico basin. And she mentioned the problem of water supply, chemical products affecting agricultural lands, causing increase in temperature, etc. The fact that those regions are receiving waste from, especially from the US and Canada. And she finally paid a very, very interesting tribute to his partner, Heriberto, who participated in all these struggles with her and with all the community, who passed away last year. And finally, she asked everybody to pay more attention to the necessity of building opportunities of a dialogue like the one we held during this session with representatives of the grassroots movements. Yeah? And she, of course, mentioned in a very emotional way the necessity of having a simple and direct language, and to put with very strong letters that we have to defend life. Monica gave an important speech and reflection on the changes in the world system and about the new geopolitical and the technological and scientific development, and in particular in communication technologies, and all these debates on the 5G and what it represents. And she presented an important document, NATO document, on the implications of China 5G project and its transformative social and political power from their perspective. And of course, NATO perspective on this is that is a challenge for their possibility of developing the hegemony they have already. So Monica also mentioned the importance of the Belt and Road Initiative as one of, or perhaps the most, the greatest project in this period we are. And she brought as a final remark, Teotonius dos Santos' vision of a planetarian civilization, pluralistic, tolerant, and multiple, and peace as the maximum question of our times. Siddharth, his communication was very interesting, and I could say sophisticated participation. She mentioned 3 dimensions of Bandung, how the moment could be interpreted, that moment could be interpreted, the lessons we can learn from the present COVID pandemic, and in face of this lessons, he mentioned in the importance of the Bandung legacy, and we have to think on the Bandung blueprint and to analyze why states, he thinks why states failed to fulfill the common interest to be successful. And he also was quoting a book, a different quotation of a book with different perspectives on this COVID-19 period we are. And I particularly like the one who said that we live in an epidemic of lies. So lies have become, he said, the global normal of our days. So I finally tried to think about humanity having faced in history many pandemics, the Black Death in the Middle Ages, Spanish influenza in the early 20th century, COVID-19 now. And all these pandemics have always caused profound changes. But nowadays, we can't foresee right now the real outcome of the present pandemic. We are in a transition to a different system, but we don't know exactly which kind of transition will be. We do not know what the transition could be, the final definition, but it is urgent and should be very deep. I'm very sorry because I was in an urgent redacting. It is not absolutely 100% correct, but it should be a deep transition if we are to avoid an irreversible catastrophe. Societies, I think, are looking for alternatives for a long time. There are many experiences that could be put into practice as alternatives. There are mature diagnoses and also mature proposals for alternatives. But I think that we are lucky, we need to create a narrative that can confront the world view and the lies that are advocated by those who are not willing to accept any true alternative. And of course, Bandung is an inspiration. Finally, I may say it's very difficult to put into very single conclusions. It was a very inspiring debate, sophisticated presentations. It is a common conclusion that we are facing true challenges, but also that we have many sources to inspire us in the effort to build another possible future. If we can join the Belt and Road project with the values of indigenous peoples' Mother's Earth perspective, perhaps we could have there a key path for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beatrice. You are out of Agora, but it's nice. It is 8 plus 9, 8 plus 9, 17 minutes. Now, I think it is still business with Asia. Stefan?
Okay, no? Yes, sure.
Yes, okay. So the challenge that I said to Latin America yesterday, the Asian people, the Asian countries, now they have what they need. They have raw materials, they have money, they have technology, they have human resources, they have market. So what Europe can offer to Asia?
Yeah, so please do not disclose what I'm going to speak about.
Yeah.
Okay, so our cluster not being directly linked to NAM, I will make it quick, especially for the ones who should be going to bed in Japan, Singapore, and Asia. So through 2 sessions on the Asia business topic, and thanks to talented and motivated speakers who highly contributed to a meaningful and constructive debate, we could identify some main ideas that I will share with you. I must say it was really nice to have both academic and professionals trying to answer to our initial questions, which was what role for the European companies in the new Asia, as Darwis just mentioned. So first of all, in many aspects, the center of the world is now in Asia. When we consider the population, the global GDP, and also the flows in terms of goods, people, or capital. And still, the potential growth is tremendous. So I won't list all the data, but we all agreed that the 21st century is Asia's. Second, the ongoing regionalization symbolized by the RCEP agreement brings both threats and opportunities to European companies. And we must mention that even if free trade agreements ease access to some Asian markets, competition remains mainly between European countries, especially in some sectors such as food, cosmetics, and so on. Third, the need of having specialized staff to play the role of bridges between local markets, operators, staff, and European companies was clearly identified, especially when a local presence is required to develop the activities, which is the case for the services. Fourth, there is a strong need of foreign investment in the ASEAN area, especially from small and medium enterprises. However, loose and diversified regulations throughout the region makes foreign direct investment opportunities from EU quite different depending on each country's situation. Another idea is about the IT investments, which are booming with the support of Asian states and governments. The startup environment is much attractive and dynamic in Asia than in Europe. The behavior of Asian investors is also very different from Europeans, who are much more long-term orientated. The sixth idea is that data collection and connection, which are extremely useful for innovation in the fields of technology, services, and other growing sectors, are really booming in Asia, due to the fact there is no real regulations, on the contrary of Europe. However, without control, this can also be a threat to citizens and customers. So in a nutshell, Asia has already is or will catch up over Europe in many aspects, but it does not mean that Europe has no role to play in Asia. On the contrary, there are new customers, new needs, new markets to supply. RCEP is a new stone to a more harmonious region, but still the path will be long and challenging with lots of opportunities for European companies. So the importance of international trade specialists with a good knowledge of multicultural aspects is crucial to help European companies to be successful in Asia. And in this perspective, I believe that Le Havre University's master's degree specialized in Asia's business is a good opportunity both for students and European companies. So in order to make it more attractive, we need to promote the master by strengthening the alumni network and the interactions between former and actual students. So I let Najwa, I think.
Yes, it's me.
The last session.
Yes. So first of all, thank you everyone for attending this conference. So for our session, it was a bit special because our team was about alumni, creating a better network between former and current students from this master degree, because it's, I mean, you may all know that, but it's specialized on Asia. So we all learn Chinese, Japanese, Indonesian, and so many other languages. And it's a bit difficult for us to see where it's going, what we can do after this master degree. So we decided to improve our master degree network with the help of 2 alumni. And it's been a year now, and we've been doing a couple of meetings, has been great. And this one has been taking place during this conference, which is really, really great for us. And we talk about many subjects, such as creating a network in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Japan, what we can do, what not to do, And it's been really, really interesting for the students and also for the alumni to be able to interact and see where everybody is going, what everybody is doing. So it's been really interesting. And I would like to thank Darwis Khudori for being our master degree headmaster. He's been really supporting for us. And I've been working with great colleagues, my classmates. So I would like to thank everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you. I forgot to introduce Stefan is my former student, and also Svetlin, also my former student, and now Najwa is still my student. So, well, the last, I think it's arms control and disarmament. Now, Akil, you are ready?
So thank you very much, Darwis, and because I chaired it along with Grafjan. Grafjan will also be speaking on this session, so I'll be very short and precise. We had 5 presentations. The theme was arms control and disarmament, and the speakers were Hudson Kate from I think United Kingdom, then Dimitris Atin Benayak from India, then Nilofar also from India, and Azril Bakal, he's from Latin America. So I'll not speak on who exactly spoke what, but I'll be summarizing the debates that came up out of these 5 presentations. If we look at the presenters, they are from different continents. That is how it represents, a perspective or multiple perspectives from different locations of the world. Hudson, who has been campaigning against disarmament, has presented the global reality today by providing insights into what is happening as far as the campaign against disarmament is concerned. She has particularly talked about the developments since 1980s, and she has mentioned that there have been disputes between the United States of America and that of the European countries regarding the process of armament vis-a-vis the disarmament. This internal discontent or internal discontents between European and that of the US had a lot of implications in the process of disarmament. She has also mentioned that campaign is on, and she's optimistic about the campaign against disarmament. And she has said that even though there have been setbacks because of the COVID-19, she's hopeful that in the post-COVID-19 world, there will be larger campaigns against disarmament. So these were certain points or certain views being offered by Hudson. And this was followed by the presentation of Dimitris. And you have seen the way Dimitris can make presentation. He has presented so comprehensively about the session that he shared. Now, Dimitris, he provided us the Trump foreign policy, very particularly, and its implications on armament. And he had given a very, very comprehensive, extensive, analysis about the Trump's policy on Middle East, Syria, and other countries. He had very, very critically looked into various segments of the policies being pursued by the US administration in general and the Trump administration in particular. While coming about what kind of solution we look for, he has very particularly mentioned about, Middle East nuclear-free zone, which will also include Turkey. I'll tell you that after the presentations were over, I was raising some other fundamental issues to which he responded, again, in a very critical and comprehensive manner. Now, the third presenter was Professor Achin Banaya. He is from India, and he was particularly looking at three countries, India, China, and Pakistan. And while trying to understand the whole situation of armaments, nuclear armaments in this Asian region, he also took us to the global situation as far as the armaments are concerned. He very particularly pointed out in the United States of America's aggressive campaign against Russia and China. And as a result of it, how both Russia and China are also trying to assert themselves. And the assertion on the part of China has a lot of implications on India. And India's assertion regarding the position in nuclear war or nuclear weapons has implications on China. So he had given a very empirical analysis, empirical critical analysis, what is happening in this region. And he also pointed out what could be the possible solutions before us. He very particularly mentioned about the kind of options which are available now, or the kind of options that the respective governments in China, India, and Pakistan have been looking for. For example, no first use policy by some of the countries, or no war kind of agreement by some of the countries, and how the negotiations have been taking place and what are the challenges ahead. And he also very particularly talked about what could be the civil society initiative. Then Nilofa, who is a journalist, had very particularly talked about the hegemonic development communication campaign. She mentioned that when China, or when India and Pakistan had gone in for nuclear weapons, there were a lot of campaigns, and those campaigns were controlled by the white hegemony or white minority, and the voices of the countries here, respective these two countries, were not taken into consideration. She was not exactly supporting the nuclear armaments in India and China. What she was talking about it, while talking about the disarmament, it is important that we also look into who controls the development communication. And finally, she suggested that NAM countries has tremendous responsibility to build counter hegemony as far as development communication is concerned. So her suggestion is that development communication plays a very important role, and the counter hegemony is needed here. Now, Azrael Bakal, who is from Latin America, made a very interesting presentation. I must confess that I couldn't follow everything he talked about, because he brought in very, very interesting episodes and also very, very interesting literature. But he very particularly mentioned that, dignity, right to dignity is very important when we talk about the disarmament, and when we talk about right to dignity, the structural violence, structural inequities need to be taken into consideration. And he very particularly mentioned that when we talk about peace, we are not talking about the colonial peace, and we have to be very, very clear about it. Now, he also brought in Gandhi here, and that was, I found it to be very, very interesting. He mentioned that when we talk about disarmament or nuclear disarmament, it cannot be, as Gandhi said, it cannot be zero-sum game. We shouldn't be, trapped into the zero-sum game. We have to come out of the zero-sum game if we think in terms of disarmament in the true sense of the term. Taking together, it was a very, very interesting session. And finally, I raised a couple of questions. And out of these questions, one was very straight and to everyone: what kind of future we look for, how optimistic we are about a nuclear disarmament or a world free of nuclear armaments. And everybody had given their answer, and they very particularly talked about the location, that where we are located in, are very, very important when we analyze the whole situation. Taking together, as I said, this was an interesting session, and very interesting perspectives emerged. Thank you, Darwis.
Thank you. You spoke 9 minutes. Now it's 3 minutes remaining, because after that, it's the turn concluding remark by Professor Mohanty. So what we can do? Well, 3 minutes for discussion. I don't think that it is enough.
Darwis,
yes.
I don't speak also.
Who? Grajon. So, okay, for continuing on arms control,
yeah.
you mean?
Grajon should speak at least 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yes, okay. 2 minutes, it's okay.
No, I have so share of the disarmament, and I don't much to add, only that some kind of synthesize of these very important issues, that because the first panelist described pessimistic diagnosis how it is now, but the effect of discussion lays that we should build counter-hegemony, as it was already said, and we must struggle for culture, because it was last panelist said that populism and fascist movements are effectively struggle for culture, and another way nowadays is to build strategic communications. So I think it is the main essential synthesis of this co-session. But I also was co-chair of the session 22. Could I speak a little bit about this?
Well, we still went one speaker, because I forgot that Victor has to make a report on geopolitics. So
session 22.
What is the session 22?
Assessment of new alignment movement from Central Eastern Europe and Russian.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I forgot. So there are still 2 sessions to be reported. We are out of Agora. Let's go.
Can I record?
So yes, you should report. Yes.
Okay. So I try to speak fast. First, Dusan Prokorovich discussed the historical legacy of non-alignment and current foreign policy of Serbia. Serbia is unique within the successor states of Yugoslavia, inasmuch it was the main initiator of Yugoslavia, which was one of the initiators of non-alignment movement, of course. Serbia has attempted to maintain good relations with non-alignment movement and has been an observer since 2001. This friendly position is partly an inheritance of the past and the reaction to the policy of the Western powers, especially after their aggression in 1991 and their Kosovo policy. The orientation towards non-alignment movement has been strengthened after it became clear that European Union is not open for a further eastern enlargement. Serbia follows a multi-vector foreign policy in which non-alignment movement occupies an increasingly important place as a traditional representative of the right for independence. The actions with non-alignment movement help Serbia to pursue its multi-vector foreign policy, which is based on independence and the right to full self-determination. Okay, second very interesting panelist Jason Strikes discussed the role of non-alignment movement from the viewpoint of a country which has long been in a middle position geographically, politically, and from the viewpoint of the development as well. Azerbaijan has been the chair of this movement since 2019. This movement play important role for the country for finding the way to national development. Azerbaijan has been considerably extending its trade relations with countries from this movement in last couple of years, increasing use of non-alignment movement membership as well as a chairmanship from 2019-2022 as a platform for strategic maneuvering within international system to achieve its national objectives during the past decade. Next, presenters Istvan Tarosi discussed the stance of Hungary since the 50s. The importance of the developing countries in the foreign relations of Hungary has been strengthened after 1956 and expanded since that time. The systematic change affect many contacts harmfully, while many relations have been established by the civil organization. After the new qualitative moment was after 2011, the government has begun an opening aiming at the diversification of the country's foreign policy to the east and south, which is, it is worth to add, exceptional among the other semi-federal states in European Union, especially when we compare this with Poland. There was the time in Poland that present ruling party want to build the system which looks like Budapest. That they are speaking that in Warsaw there also be the Budapest. But when they came to power, the situation, especially in foreign policy aims, quite different from Hungarian perspective. And it is also visible what Professor Tarosi said, that since 2016, Hungary developed their educational and research contacts, promoted the program called Stipendium Hungaricum, and among 70 agreements, most of them is with developing countries. And last but not least, Paulina Travers explained how the Russian policy has been increasingly turned towards the non-alignment movement because of the increasing tension between Russia and the Western powers. The Bandung principles are important for Russia as its leadership understands the country's responsibility towards the world and non-alignment movement. That is why they start to participate as an observer from 2019. Now Russia does not aspire to impose its ideology as it did during the Soviet Union, of course, moment. And that's why the potential of the multinational state gathering many religions is the basis for the cooperation now. Moscow don't want to be seen as the North, so non-alignment movement will fit in with BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Cooperation Organization. And that's why Russia start to promote the values of non-interference and sovereignty. And shortly about the discussion, I think that the most important during discussion moment was the highlighting the new Russian vision of international system, which is developing now, and the importance to analyze the 4 key priorities for social development, which was described by President Putin in Davos 21. I recommend this to analyze for everyone, because it was clearly opposition to pro-corporationist global reset agenda, which was and still promoted by, in Davos. I think it is very, very, very important proposition of development. Thank you.
Thank you. 5 minutes record. Yeah, but Azril protested. It is too fast. It's okay. Great. Well, I give you a secret. Professor Mohanty told me, in fact, he does not need 30 minutes. He needs just maximum 20 minutes of speaking, of concluding remarks. Now, Victor, you can start.
Okay, thank you very much. To be frank, Darwis, in Central Eastern Europe, we get used to speak last. So, well, after a Polish scholar, it's only a Hungarian who could speak last. So I also prepared a report, and I don't want to go into details about give framework of geopolitics and the relationship of none, because it's so obvious. So I think it's better to focus on the presenters. In this geopolitical section, we had 3 sessions, 16th, 17th, and 18th, and this was co-chaired by Manu and Marzia, and of course me. The first session had 3 presenters. Isabel Cabana, Flavia Lucenti, and Victor and me, Victor Estere. In this, if I want to provide a kind of a summary, I would say this session was the least directly related to our major topic, because mostly it was focusing on current global issues. The three presentations had three very different approaches. One was related to cultural diplomacy. The second was the geopolitical narratives and the competing narratives of great powers. And the last one was related to the Hungarian-Chinese relations via Wallerstein war system theory model. So if you list these three topics, you can see that these presentations are strictly not connected to each other and was not strictly related to our major topic, but was a very interesting base of discussions, because it provides various approaches of investigating our current global issues. And I would say that there was a common message that we entered the multipolar international order, and all the three presentations underline this message that this is a new international order. And within this international order, a competition of providing probably is one of the most important characteristics of this international system. And this competition can be investigated through various approaches. So not just this classical geopolitical approaches, but through different versions of theoretical approaches. The next session, which was chaired by Marzia, David Marco, Fedran Obuchina, and Devender Kumar had presentations. However, Ms. Obuchina's presentation was read by Marzia due to some health issues. If I have to conclude session 17, I would say that all the presenters examined the very important actors of NAM. So all this could be connected to, or could grab together with focusing on a major actor of this movement. The essay, which provided a deeper understanding of Iran's historical role in NAM, was wanted to challenge this very simplistic view of the role of Iran, and underline that Iran was such an important actor in NAM movements, and also was very different from other Middle Eastern countries. And the other two presentations focused on current issues, how Indonesia and how India is starting to transform its environment according to their own interest. So this was, both were focusing on the issue that how these actors, at least according to my view, started to move away from the original values of the non-aligned movements, or at least this created a debate that how their role is transforming in this current international system. So this also connected quite well to the previous session, that both are underlined that in a multipolar international system, all actors or the major actors are starting to be more active in order to transform their environment. And some point of view, this is also challenging the classical approach of the non-aligned movement. In the last session, we had four presenters, Amina Bencharat and Abdelkader Nehari presented a case of Algeria. Marina Shilina introduced us the relationship, the changing relationship with Russia and the non-aligned movement. Vanko sorry to pronounce it, I cannot pronounce it very well. Investigated the very interesting perception of Africa to put together the colonial approach of or the colonial view of the non-aligned movement from the perception of Africa. And finally, Gretchen Cimek introduced us a new view the changing international system and the need to create a new kind of non-aligned movement. So all these four presentations underline the importance of the non-aligned movement, and the possible, also especially the last one, also focused on the future possible role of the non-aligned movement. But at the same time, it was also very interesting that many of them also argued that despite the very noble values of the non-aligned movement, the actors also have, or I would say, not free from real political interest. So political interest and the noble values cannot be separated from each other. And probably that was a very interesting issue in the case of Africa. This was a very interesting case study, how this, or at least this narrative, can be also put in the picture in order to understand this very complex issue of the non-aligned movement. So that's all. Thank you very much for your attention, and also for all the presenters. And finally, I would like to go back to you.
7 minutes, fine. So, Mano, you want to go directly?
Okay.
You can take time as you wish. Concluding remarks.